Conversations with Phil. Business advice without the BS. Just straight talk and frank conversations to help you grow your business by teaching you to get more leads, earn more referrals, and close more business. Each episode, Phil has a conversation with a business leader to offer you insights from their business and translate it into actionable tips for your business.
Screen to screen selling is the conversation we're going to have today with my buddy Doug Devitre. Doug is a CSP in the National Speaker Association, which means he is really a professional speaker and he's really awesome. I get to learn from Doug all the time. He's a good friend and a smart guy. And his new book is called Screen to Screen Selling. So Doug and I are going screen to screen and we're going to talk about his book and other stuff. But first, Doug, how's the baby?
Baby's good. You know, we're teaching him to read. Grandma's reading him the book, and Grandma's learning by reading the book to him. So reverse mentoring is what I'd like to call that.
Fantastic. It works for everyone. So good. So Doug, give us a little bit of background and then let's talk about the screen to screen selling, because I've known you like 3 years now and it's been fun watching you shine and do different stuff. And I know this is really kind of your life's work, man. This is something you've been doing a long time. So tell us a little bit about this, please.
Yeah, so Phil, thanks for asking. Thanks for having me as a guest. You know, what really changed for me is when I tried to figure out how do I do what I love to do, which is teaching, which is educating, which is consulting, solving big problems, but not necessarily be on the road. You know, for 5 years in a row, I hit the road hard. Many people don't know that. It was 180 days a year where, you know, when your life is like that, you tend to lose a sense of community. You tend to lose some friends along the way because, you know, anytime they ask, you know, hey, what are you doing? You know, you're always traveling, you're always somewhere. And then, you know, people stop asking you what's going on. So what I really had to do was retool, not just with new technology, because new technology is always out there, but retool with a process that's truly breakthrough for professional sales. And when we get down into it, it's plug and play. No matter what technology you're using, you can use this process that I've created to really be able to influence ideas without necessarily being in the same room.
Wow. So let's see, less travel, which means more fun and ultimately more money. Gee, Doug, I don't know. Let's stop our conversation now. Sounds like nothing anybody wants. I don't know.
Well, really, Phil, it's a mindset before it's a skill set. And, you know, a challenge that we have, at least now, you know, right now it's 2015. I know that many meetings are happening remotely, but then there's still the same stigma that you have to be face-to-face in order to facilitate a meeting, in order to deliver a presentation. And really, if you get down to the whole goal of everything that we do is let's figure out the problem we're trying to solve or the result that we're going to try to accomplish. And 9 times out of 10, that does not involve being physically present. So, you know, the bigger question is how are we able to communicate our expertise in a way that's really benefits the customer, not so much about what we have prepared in advance, but how can we really be in the moment with the customer, listening like we are, seeing each other, you know, kind of face to face or screen to screen, and then really getting down to solving problems using slides or digital whiteboards or, you know, whatever that tool is that really is in the customer's best interest for you to use.
Yeah, that is a big mindset shift, Doug. I think that's important, right? We're starting with maybe not so much what we're best equipped to do, but often what our customers best want from us, right?
Yeah, and really, you know, sometimes our customers don't know what they want because they're used to a salesperson delivering with PowerPoint and advancing the slides. You know, they don't know any better. So what we have to do is really educate the customer why it's in their best interest to do a screen share, because, you know, even 9 times out of 10, if you're dealing with a prospect or a potential customer for the first time, they might not want to engage in this environment. It's a little too personal for them. You know, I might have to install something on your computer in order to have a conversation. And, you know, is that trust in place? So I think really what we have to do is not just as salesperson, but also as marketers, create good content that leads to the conversation for what the customer's goal is, and then try to, you know, feed them into the process so then they're able to get what they need, you know, not just better, but also faster.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a way more participative kind of environment. I think that's one of the big things that I took away from your book, Doug, is this is about participation. This is not just okay, Doug, let's go ahead and click, 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 right? It's really, okay, I'm going to be an active participant as an attendee, and Doug is going to obviously be active as the presenter, and we're going to go back and forth and kind of co-create something that's way more useful. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's a conversation and not a presentation. Once you get into present mode, then you've truly disconnected, and it's hard to work screen to screen. You know, it's the dynamics are changed because they can quickly delete you at any point. Face to face, you can't necessarily delete me as quickly as you'd like. So we really have to be skilled in engagement. And one of the big takeaways that, or at least one of the learning moments for me is going through this process, is change your slides from bullet points to fill in the blank. Because when they're fill in the blank and you have the right question, then you can start to guide the customer based off of what the path is of how you work with others. And so what that really means is figuring out how to be able to create new types of slides, making them more process friendly, making them fill in the blank. So then when you start to ask the questions, you can start to fill out whatever the answers they are. By filling out what the answers on the whiteboard tells the other person that you're listening and that you actually understood what they said. You know, because, you know, you can, like right now, you can be shaking your head and be like, yeah, I get it, but you could completely miss the point. So, you know, having the visual reinforce the verbal really accelerates the conversation that much faster.
Yeah, well, and I would add, it shows that you actually care, and you don't just have your agenda in mind. You have the agenda of mutual understanding and of collaboration, so that you find a solution. Maybe it isn't even me as the solution, but you find a solution that actually is workable, that you both agree to, so that when you say next steps, it's not, here's the 3 things that I want out of this meeting, and one of these 3 is going to be the next step. And if it's not, well, the hell with you, because here's one of them anyway.
Sure, and like, you know, in real estate, they say let the buyer beware. For the remote salesperson or the inside salesperson, beware, because once you get into presentation mode or whiteboard mode, really we need the permission for the customer to advance to that next step. And there becomes a turning point in the conversation where we're talking face to face. And when you ask a really provocative question, and it gets them thinking, you can actually, what's great about video to video too, is you can actually see the other person thinking, because they're like, you know, they start to slow down a little bit. And then when they ask that question, well, how does that work specifically? Then you could say, well, do you mind if I share my screen with you? That way we can save time, you know, talking about their best interest. Can I save you time by doing the screen share? So then that way, you know, we can both be on the same page, and, you know, we can get to your goal faster.
Yeah, that's great. So, but that also sounds a little bit scary, Doug, as a salesperson. I mean, I really want to give that level of control up to my customer? Come on, man, you're kidding.
Yeah, and that goes back to the point of presenting versus connecting. You know, presentation with a pre-ordered slide deck makes an assumption that the customer needs to know what I know, the salesperson, what the customer needs to know in the order they need to know it. Well, if you're a customer, you're going to want to know about maybe commission, you're going to know about price, you're going to want to know about value, you're going to want to know about time frame. And if we say wait till we get to slide number 20 when you're on number 2, they're gonna continuously think about what's on slide 20, and so there's that disconnect. So really, what we need to be able to do, whatever platform we're using, right, is to be extemporaneous in our delivery, to be extemporaneous in the way that we create that conversation. And when we do that, when we're in tune with the customer and we give them that visual reinforcement, they're going to say, well, wow, nobody's ever explained it to me in a way like this before. I know that other people can benefit from it. And you deliver experience so good that you become referable because they can't get that through anybody else, because either, you know, they haven't read the book or they haven't developed some of those skill sets that are necessary in today's environment.
Yeah, well, a couple things there that you said resonated with me. And first is conversation instead of presentation. You've said that a couple times, but I really want to draw that out because that's so important. The goal is to have a conversation. That's one of the reasons why I just call these conversations with Phil. This is not me scripting. I don't have any questions up my sleeves, right? Yeah. I'm not trying to pull anything out. And I think that's really important because, you know, I have no idea what you're going to say. You have no idea what I'm going to say. You're an expert in your field. I'm an expert in mine. And we have a conversation to co-create something good. And then secondly, so you said conversation. I think the other thing that's important is experience, right? We're in an experience economy where people pay premium prices for a positive experience with them, right? And they're willing to refer that to somebody else, therefore kind of leaving that price objection at the door, because if you create a remarkable experience that they can't get from anyone else, they're going to pay for that. They're going to say, you know what? Wow, this is value I can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, and the last thing that you want to say to yourself, or for customers to say to themselves, is, we didn't need to pay for travel for him to help us with that. We didn't need to go through the schedule and this whole big, rigmarole in order to have this meeting. We could have easily done this. And I think what we'll find is, now it's 2015, 2016, 2017. There's going to be new tools, but the reinforcement is to really figure out how to develop the skills, and really, as not just sales skills, but also the technical skills, because later when the technology starts to change, as long as you have that skill set, it's easy to be able to adapt it, into any of these new tools that come on the market.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and that's why we haven't talked yet about any tools. But real quick, Doug, I know that we're kind of running low on time for you here, buddy. So give us a couple of tools that are going to help us, and then how do we get started screen-to-screen selling, besides obviously buying the book?
Yeah, so first, what I would recommend as far as tools is figure out what the customer is most familiar with before you tell them to use something, out of your bag of tricks, because if someone doesn't have Skype, you're not going to force them to create a username and a password on Skype to have a conversation. I think recently they might have recently changed that, but that's enough to play with. Skype is obviously one tool that's very popular that also has the screen share feature built into it. Also, another one of my favorite tools is Zoom US. It's a tool that we're using right now to have a quick conversation. Boy, I've used it in so many different ways. I love the record button feature, for quality and training purposes. So that's definitely Zoom US. Another one of my favorite tools is Join Me. That's simple screen sharing that doesn't require someone to download, an app or tool. So if I'm in a situation where someone's not necessarily tech savvy, then I'll use Join Me as one of those go-to tools because it's the most, user friendly. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I can go a little bit deeper as far as the meeting tools, but then there are also new tools that you can use to create some of your visuals, new tools that you can respond to quickly to be able to engage. One of my favorite whiteboard tools is Doceri. That's Doceri. That's my digital whiteboard that I'll plug and play and put onto any screen sharing meeting feature. So as long as I get in the desktop sharing feature, now I can use Doceri to write on slides. I can use it as the whiteboard. So those are just a couple examples.
Awesome. So those are great tools. I love what you said, though. Make sure it's something your customer is comfortable with, because you're not going to force them to do anything. That's awesome advice. So Doug, last question, and then I'm going to kick it over to promote the crap out of you, buddy, is how do we get started, right? I mean, obviously read the book, change your mindset, but what's a good, just one first step that I can take to say, okay, I'm going to do more effective screen-to-screen selling?
Yeah, so what we have to look at as far as the psychology before we get into the methodology is we have to figure out what are our beliefs before we get down to the specific behaviors. So when we get into a situation where we want to have a meeting with somebody, we then we make a decision: do we schedule it on the calendar, show up in person, or do we have it where we're going to meet remotely? My best advice to that is practice on your family first, because your family is a whole lot more forgiving than anyone else is. I'll always say that I practice on my mom because she's new to technology. She doesn't get it, but once she gets it, and if I can explain it in a way that makes sense to her, boy, it'll work with just about anybody.
Awesome. So practice your sales on your mom. My mom is a great guinea pig too, Doug, because while she loves technology, she's not always the savviest. So if mom can understand it, anyone can. So that's awesome. So last but not least, Doug, where do we pick up this remarkable book? Where do we get some bonuses, or where do we get more insight from Doug Devitre?
Thanks, Phil. Well, it's published by McGraw-Hill Professional Education, which means that it's available international at in different countries. They have the distribution for that. It's available at Barnes & Noble. Next week, we're doing a book signing here in St. Louis. The week after that, we're doing a book signing in San Francisco with the C-Suite Conference. So if you go to a bookstore, or you go to Amazon or Books A Million or 800 CEO Read, you're going to find it. Please not just get one copy, but I think you have to get 2 copies, because remember maybe 20 years ago when you tried to learn how to use the fax machine, there's a manual for that. It doesn't make sense to only know how to use it for yourself. And if you have a team member that doesn't know how to use it, you're not going to make that as much impact. So, get as many copies as you can, spread the love. It's about connecting the world one click at a time. And I'm so glad that you're able to do this for us today.
Yeah, awesome, Doug. So Doug Devitre is the author of Screen to Screen Selling. Great friend. He has some cool videos as well up on his website at dougdevitre.com, at screentoscreenselling.com. You find out more about Doug and pick up a copy for your whole sales team, right? And make sure that your boss reads it. Because some of our bosses think that, face-to-face is the only effective way. But in this conversation with Doug, we've really learned that, you can sell screen to screen, and it might be even more effective. But first, you have to change your mindset. So thanks, Doug, for being on the show, man.
Thanks, pal. Appreciate your time.
Yeah.